Hello friends, my name is Stephanie Chase and welcome back to my channel. Today I am reviewing the latest edition of AEW Dynamite. It was so jam-packed, this show, because we are just days away from AEW's Forbidden Door pay-per-view, and a lot was set up and there's a lot we need to get into. But before I break down the show, I just want to say, if you're watching this and thinking, StreamYard, did she record this live? Yes, I did. Every week I do my Dynamite reviews live for members of my channel and members of my Patreon. So if you want to get involved in that and watch me record live, just go to patreon.com/Stephanie Chase or hit on the members button on this channel. And not only do you get to watch these live Dynamite reviews, but I also upload an exclusive video every week, and you can also send me messages. There's different tiers on my Patreon. Steph Chase Fan, if you just want to support Miss Dynamite for a little bit more support and more access to things, there's the Steph Chase OnlyFans version, which lets you combine being a Patreon to being a member of my OnlyFans too. So yeah, go check that out. And of course, please give this video a thumbs up or leave a comment if you like it. It really helps me crack that algorithm, which is very, very hard to crack. I've been trying. And also subscribe to this channel. There's a lot of great things on this channel at the minute. I just did a review of Collision that I actually did live for absolutely everyone to give people a taste of what my live shows are like. And then I uploaded a little separate video where I fully broke down CM Punk's return promo and everything in it, talking a lot about what I call the cult of Punk as a disciple of his. And I have an interview coming up. It will go live on the channel on Friday with LA Knight, and you might have seen on my Twitter, I put up a little clip of that. That was really fun. He's a really, really great interviewee. You know, it's a mixed bag being a wrestling interviewer, and he's someone that I would say was really awesome to talk to and really open. But yeah, please just consider supporting this channel and my work in any way. It really helps me, you know, try and fulfill some of the goals that I wanted to for the end of this year, which is basically being able to live more off wrestling, because you know right now I think I'm on 5 jobs maybe, but anyway, that's the plugs. Let's get into Dynamite because we have a lot to go through, and I'm trying to keep this as concise as possible. We opened the show with the Guns defeating the HARDYZ, brother team versus brother team. I think this match was fine. Really, I think it's the best I can say. Matt and Jeff are definitely way past their prime, and they're getting quite difficult to watch. It's not just Jeff, but also Matt doesn't move around great. But I think that the Guns were a good opponent for them. I think they got as much out of the HARDYZ currently as possible. Austin and Colton are really sneaky good in the ring, I think, because they're playing these characters. People maybe aren't looking at how great their actual ring work is, and it's really, really good. I really like Austin and Colton, and I really do see big things for them in the future, especially when they move past the kind of more comedy ass boys gimmick. But then we had a beatdown of the Hardy Boys, and we had Bullet Club Gold come out to the ring, Juice Robinson and Jay White. They were beating up the Hardys, and then FTR came out to make the save, but he was outnumbered. And then there he comes, CM Punk. Yes, CM Punk was on Dynamite. First funny thing about this is the Hardys disappeared. So Hardys, they're not sharing the spotlight with CM Punk, and we can read into that what we will. So I thought that was very funny how the Hardys were just kind of binned off, even though they were initially the guys getting beaten up. Punk's music didn't even hit, but he got a huge ovation from the Chicago crowd. And then then we had Ricky Starks coming out there as well. I don't think I mentioned him when I first said who came out, but so we had Starks, Punk, and FTR against Bullet Club Gold and the Guns. Now, CM Punk being on Dynamite, it's funny because at the end of this, he did set up a match for Collision, and I did talk in my Collision review that they didn't actually set us up with anything to stick around for, come back for the next week, but we got it. We're going to have the team of Ricky Starks, FTR, and CM Punk against Jay, Juice, and the Guns. And then CM Punk even said to the camera that he's not meant to be on the show. He's a Collision guy. So that was like the first kind acknowledgement on TV that we got that there is a roster split even for some people, because Punk's out there saying he's a Collision guy. Now, I guess we'll address now that the Elite didn't appear on the show in person. They appeared on a pre-tape, which they did last week during the Dynamite tapings, I think. And I just think that's very interesting because with everything that's happened, it's definitely clear that the money, the executives, and really even Tony himself certainly see huge value on Punk, in Punk, and I think that kind of pushes them onto the Punk side of things. So here he is appearing on Dynamite, where the Elite have to do a pre-tape, and Kenny is in a huge match at Forbidden Door. He's in a rematch of one of the best matches I've ever seen. Like him and Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom was incredible. Best match of the year so far. And I don't know how anyone's going to beat it by the time we get to the end of the year. But he's not on the show plugging that. Like Ospreay was there, but we don't get Kenny plugging that because him, the Elite, and Punk can't be on the same show or can't be in the same building, like whatever it is. And it just really highlights how if all of this is a shoot, what an awkward kind of bad for business situation this really is, that you have the three EVPs that are having to do a pre-tape when one of them's heading into a huge match because we have Punk on the show. They didn't announce Punk before, so I guess his appearance, you can't say it was done just to pop a rating because no one knew officially that he was going to be on the show, but it was definitely good for the Chicago crowd. So interesting there that they so quickly into Punk's return brought him out on Dynamite. Now, next we had the Concession Stand Brawl. Mark Briscoe defeated Jeff Jarrett. So this was really silly. This was a total silly Billy match. However, usually I'm a lot more serious, but I think I've mellowed because I actually didn't mind the silliness here. And that might be because we now live in a world where Collision exists. And I found Collision to be much more catered to me, that I'm going to allow more stuff that I would have hand waved on Dynamite than before. And this is a good example of that. We had the Queen, Karen Jarrett, pretending to be like a popcorn seller and getting involved. We had Sanjay Dutt getting involved. We had Papa Briscoe getting involved. He was at the timekeeper's table. There was some really bad camera work, I thought, in this match, which is an ongoing problem with AEW. They just can't seem to get it right because there was no reveal of Papa Briscoe. Like Jay Lethal, had to act like shocked that it was Papa Briscoe at the timekeeper's table when the camera was clearly showing him, and all us at home knew. And I think we also saw Satnam Singh come down too early as well. So some problems there that is just a continuing bug of AEW is some of the camera work. But I thought this is pretty fun. I'm hoping, though, it is the end of the Jarrett Mark Briscoe feud. I do think that Jarrett said on something like a Road to that he wouldn't wrestle again if he defeated Mark Briscoe. And then I think they scrubbed that from history because I guess they didn't want to put that stipulation on it. But I think that wraps up this feud nicely. And I wasn't into the idea of bringing Jeff Jarrett in as an on-screen performer, but I can't say that he hasn't entertained me. And I also can't say that I absolutely love Karen Jarrett. So no real complaints from me. So we had the BCC pre-tape backstage. They were with Don Callis and Takeshita. He was in a leather jacket. Moxley issued a 5-on-5 challenge to the Elite. The BCC and Takeshita will have Shota Umino by their side. And then they hyped that Danielson was going to do a face-to-face with Okada later in the show. Then we had a video package on Collision, which I thought was very cool because it's not often that you see AEW kind of do the recap stuff, remind you of what happened. It's seen as like a very WWE trope because they, I think, do too many recap packages where they kind of act like we all have like the memory of goldfishes, whereas AEW act like we all have the memory of Tony Khan. So I thought it was nice to show this, and anyone that missed Collision, hopefully it would intrigue them to watch the next episode. Then we had Chris Jericho teaming with Sammy Guevara and Minoru Suzuki against Action Andretti, Darius Martin, and AR Fox. I thought this match was fine. I love Minoru Suzuki, and I'm always happy to see him when he gets a shot in AEW. I wish he'd been in a different team. This is, very reminiscent of last year's Forbidden Door when I was also like down on Suzuki, not just getting a singles match. But, it seems Jericho wants to be on the side of Minoru Suzuki rather than opposite him, because who would want to face the Murder Grandpa? Action Andretti. It was like when he came out, it was just like, remember Action Andretti. And I'm surprised Jericho remembers him, to be honest. I think that he feels like he's destined to be like a trivia note. Like, who was that defeated Chris Jericho once? And I can't say that I feel like his win over Jericho was worth it. I think maybe something as big and shocking like that should have been saved for someone else that they kind of have more of a proper plan for. Because he really quickly became just another guy, to where I don't actually think that victory ended up meaning that much at the end. Of course, like they referenced it here, he's back there in the ring with Jericho, but I don't think anyone was kind of salivating to see that, just based on how Andretti's been used since he got that win. But anyway, after the match, we had Renee come in the ring and ask Jericho what it was like to get face-to-face with Sting. And he was basically like, oh, it was a monumental moment. Everyone cared except me. And then he started saying these things about Sting, which I think are maybe like a lot of things that people think about him. Sting came out, and then Jericho issued a challenge to Sting, Darby, and a partner to face Suzuki, him, and Sammy at Forbidden Door. They accepted the challenge. And Darby Allin said that Jericho's made a lot of enemies in a lot of places, and they'll find out their partner in Collision. Who's it going to be? I'm going to guess Naito. I would love it to be someone more interesting, but I'm going to guess Naito. My dream, and he's got no connection to Jericho, and I'd rather see him in the ring with someone else, would be Hiromu, but I think it's going to be Naito. This setup was fine, but we're clearly building to Jericho Sting, right? And that is a monumental thing. They've never faced each other before. And the first time we're going to see them touch in a match is going to be at Forbidden Door. And I think this all should really be a bigger deal. And I think it's just not, because I do feel like Jericho's stock has really fallen recently. And maybe that's a lot to do with the feud that cannot be named. But I think that if he was in a better place, we'd be making a big deal about this. And also, like, there's so much going on in AEW. Like, CM Punk's back. We're building to Forbidden Door. Collision just debuted. I don't think people have the brain space to be as excited about Jericho Sting as they should be. And as far as his promo goes, I think with Punk back and with Eddie Kingston back, And there's another person I'm going to talk about soon that suffers from this too. I do think his promo, like his delivery and the way he phrases stuff, his choice of words, does feel very dated when put beside like a Punk or a Kingston. I mean, he called Sting a whore, which, okay. I guess that's better than him constantly saying chicks. But yeah. But yeah, I think that it should be a bigger deal that him and Sting are getting in the ring together, even if it isn't a multi-man. Okay, bizarre segment next. My boy RJ City, he was with Tony Schiavone. There were names in a tombola. And this was to determine the pairings for the Blind Eliminator tournament next week. Okay, they never explained what the fuck the Blind Eliminator tournament is. It's a lethal lottery, but what is your percentage of viewers watching that know that remember the history of lethal lotteries or anything like that? Like, no explanation. I think it was just Tony once again assuming that we all have his brain. So Tony picked out 2 names and they never told us who. And then they said we'd find out the brackets next week. And it was just completely bizarre and it led to something else. So I guess we'll revisit this, but just such a strange way to do things. And also, I'll mention this when we get to the other segment, but there was some other oddities too. So then we had the Elite backstage talking about the Blackpool Combat Club's challenge. And Hangman said that they have friends all over. And Kenny said a lot of people hate Callis and Takeshita. And then the man Eddie Kingston walked up and he was in a tank top, and that is notable. And he said that he doesn't like the Elite, but he hates Claudio more. So even though he doesn't trust them, he'll team with them. So that was very cool. I love Eddie's just pure hatred for Claudio. This has been going on for ages, even outside AEW. And I love how it's just like a running theme of Eddie Kingston's life is this man hates Claudio. Okay. So we had Adam Cole and MJF facing off. So Cole did a promo and he called out MJF after their match last week where Cole nearly got the win, but then the time ran out. And then MJF said that Cole should thank him for giving him like the best match that he's had. And then Cole said he wants a rematch. MJF declined. And then they were like squabbling. Tony Schiavone stood up and was like, "Excuse me, I have an announcement." They both said, "Shut up, Tony," in unison. That was so lame. And then Tony, who's always super bad at delivering this, said that the first 2 names out of that tombola were MJF and Adam Cole, which means they have to team together. So, yeah, that's what we're doing there. Firstly, on Cole, this is like what I was saying with Jericho before. I think I'm now become a person who thinks that Adam Cole is maybe not the best promo. I think that his promo here and also when he was promoing with MJF and also during the feud that will not be named, a lot of it seems very much always like he's acting, and I'm not really feeling an authenticity from him, and that really pulls me out of it. As for this whole Blind Eliminator tournament, I do think it's really weird that they are doing this when there's so many tag teams, and I think they've kind of historically been bad at spotlighting the tag team division, even though like there's a tag team who are EVPs. So it's just even odd that they have to do this in the first place. And then even I get that they did the draw thing because they wanted to set up this match. But did it have to happen this week when we're also announcing Owen Hart tournament brackets, when we're building to Forbidden Door, all of that? It was like, here's another tournament. And MJF, who has a match with Tanahashi, which I did mention that Cole goaded him into accepting. You know, he's doing that on Sunday. We find out on Rampage, spoiler alert, that Cole's facing Tom Lawler on Sunday. There was just a lot going on. And this particular bit of revealing them as partners seemed unnecessary. I think there was a way to have Adam Cole goad MJF into accepting Tanahashi's challenge that didn't involve getting the blind eliminator tournament in part of the story. And I also I just think the whole can they coexist as tag partners, that type of thing, it's just like a lazy old booking trope. It's not something that gets me really excited. And the other thing that really hit me is I feel like maybe it is because there's so much going on, but MJF does feel like an afterthought as champion. And this has been a recurring problem with AEW champions. But with everything that's happening, MJF's on this show, he comes out as the champion, and you're like, oh yeah, MJF's the champion, when, so much focus is on Punk, Danielson, Kenny. None of them are the champion. MJF is. And I think the thing that has been quite detrimental to him as establishing him as the top guy was dragging him into that Four Pillars feud. That feud definitely didn't work to elevate MJF or anyone else in it and make MJF feel like the star of the show. I think that there's been many points in time when MJF has felt like the star of the show, but it certainly hasn't been in the last couple of months. And I think it's going to be quite hard for him to cement that place in a company now where we have Punk back too. I mean, unless he feuds with Punk, but you know what I mean? He is feeling like a little bit of like he's lost in the shuffle right now with everything that's going on. And he shouldn't be. He's the world champion. He should be the main guy, like the guy we're all waiting for. And he was just out here in the middle of the show doing this thing with Adam Cole. And Cole, I still don't think he should have been his first feud after coming back should have been what it was. And he did have a really good match last week. But I just can't say that I'm totally hyped for these two going forward. So then we got the Owen Hart Foundation tournament brackets. This was absolutely wild. So in the small writing, we find out that CM Punk is facing Kojima at Forbidden Door. CM Punk, who was on the show and made no reference to this, and they made no reference to this, it was just, written there for you to read. And then on June 29th, Collision, we're getting Roderick Strong versus Samoa Joe, Dustin Rhodes versus Powerhouse Hobbs, and Ricky Starks versus Juice Robinson are all the men's matches. And then the women, Athena versus Billy Starks. It's going to be in the 0 Hour Forbidden Door. Anna Jay and Sky Blue and Rampage next week. Nyla taking on Willow and Collision. And next Wednesday, Ruby Soho versus Britt Baker in a rematch of last year's final. I think the brackets are really good. I do think it's quite strange that Punk's in there, and there was talk that he was going to wrestle Kenta, and Kenta didn't want to do that match for whatever reason, and I almost feel like they felt that we were all expecting Punk's Forbidden Door opponent to be Kenta, so instead of being like Punk's going to be wrestling at Forbidden Door and he's wrestling Kojima, everyone be excited, they were just like, Punk's wrestling at Forbidden Door, and by the way, it's Kojima, it's not Kenta. Anyway, we've got lots of other great matches. It was, I don't know, they almost just put it in there as a little Easter egg. It didn't feel like a big deal. It should be a big deal. It's CM Punk's first singles match since he returned, but I guess things didn't work out the way they wanted them to. Early odds for who's winning the tournament. I don't know. I don't think it would do Punk any good to win it. I don't think it would do Samoa Joe any good to win it either. I think I'd like to see Powerhouse Hobbs win it, or a Ricky Starks. And I would like to see someone actually get something for winning this rather than a belt and it's forgotten about. Adam Cole won last year's tournament, didn't amount to anything. Same on the women's side with Britt. For the women, I'd love to see Willow Nightingale win it, or Sky Blue win it, or Athena. And I know she's doing a thing in Ring of Honor, but she's awesome, and I would love to see her on Dynamite more. Then we had Zack Sabre Jr. teaming with Daniel Garcia to defeat Orange Cassidy and Shibata. So this was just a fun tag match to set up the Forbidden Door match, where it's going to be Garcia, Shibata, and Sabre and Orange Cassidy for the International Championship. Yes. This match was really fun. And I know I do a Daniel Garcia sidebar every week. I'm going to keep this one short. I think I'm finally starting to have some faith that things might get better for Daniel Garcia. He was the only JAS member in the Collision opening. This is really good for him. I'd love to see him capture that title. And I just want Daniel Garcia to go on the run that he should have and get away from the JAS. His pants broke in this match, and it was very, very funny because Taz apologized when they came back from break for Daniel Garcia's pants splitting, which was just absolutely hilarious. And then Excalibur said, "It's a feature, not a bug." That was so funny. And if ever there was a sign for Daniel Garcia to ditch this terrible JS gear that, you know, does nothing for him and doesn't suit him and just isn't how he should be presented, it was this. With this, you know, God was telling him, look, I split your pants on live TV so you can bin these pants and let's get you looking like Daniel Garcia, please. But I'm very excited for his match at Forbidden Door. Then we had backstage segment. Will Ospreay arrived in his car. He hates Canada. And he hates it so much that Don Callis came up to him and asked, would he like to get security for being in Canada, and that he'll provide it to him. And then Ospreay was kind of like, what's in it for you? And he said that he just wants like a fair fight between him and Kenny, and for him to defeat Kenny. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. You know, Don's building a family. I don't think Ospreay is going to like join Don's side, and I thought he looked smarter than most by questioning Don's motives. Then we had Kris Statlander defeating Taya Valkyrie to retain the TBS championship. I thought this was good. I'm not sure how great Taya Valkyrie is in the ring, really, but Kris Statlander is really good, and I really enjoy watching her. I think that there's, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but there's a huge problem with the booking of women in this promotion. And Kris Statlander returned from injury. She had that amazing victory over Jade Cargill. And what the story here is that Taya is annoyed because Taya basically like wore down Jade, and Kris came in and just scooped up the title. But all they've done with them is the old pre-tapes. I saw one on Rampage, and as far as Chris's return and her title reign so far, they haven't given her a proper story. They haven't given her a mic. You know, women very rarely get in-ring promo time on Dynamite. So I just don't think they've, you know, taken advantage of her having this great return / comeback story. It's just like, oh yeah, Kris Statlander is the TBS champion. She just feels like an afterthought, and I want more for her. But good match, and I hope they set up. I hope they give her a feud that we can really sink our teeth into soon, or just some good writing for the women, please. Like I'm begging you to write something interesting for the female roster. Okay, so we had like 10 minutes left in the show, and Eddie Kingston was in the ring. He was wearing a tank top. Like I told you, it was notable he was wearing a tank top in the backstage segment because then he put a shirt over it. And this was Eddie doing continuity, because it was a pre-tape before that he did last week, but he wanted to make you think that it was all happening the same night. I respect that. Eddie Kingston is a method actor. So he said that there is a lot of things going on he doesn't agree with, including somebody he thought was his homeboy, but despite not liking the Bucks, he hates Claudio more. Then John came out and they faced off. Moxley said Kingston is drawing a line at Forbidden Door. Kingston said Moxley drew the line when he teamed with that scumbag. Kingston was like fired up. He wanted Moxley to say something, but because Moxley wouldn't say it, then Kingston just announced that his partner at Forbidden Door will be Tomohiro Ishii, which is very cool. I love Ishii. Kingston's promo here was short but effective. For some reason, I felt teary during it. Like, this man just hits you when he speaks. He is so real. And him being back is just adds that great level of realness and storytelling and stuff that makes me easily invested, that I've been missing so much from Dynamite. And this is what I said about Punk coming back on Collision. Like Punk and Kingston are the two that can make me feel it. There is nothing that, like, when you see something like how Jericho promos and also how Adam Cole promos, I don't feel like it's real. But no matter what Kingston is doing, I feel like it's real. I feel like Kingston really hates Claudio, and he really has these feelings towards Moxley. Like, yeah, you're meant to be my friend, but there you are in a team with my enemy. Moxley and Kingston have great chemistry. I would love to see them do a program again. It was so good before. But yeah, Kingston makes things real, and he shows everyone up. He shows everyone up. I wish every wrestler was able to speak with the authenticity that Eddie Kingston does and deliver everything so syncly and genuine sounding as the Mad King is able to. So then Bryan Danielson comes to the ring. So Ishii came first, and then Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio all hit the ring to attack Kingston and Ishii. Danielson took the mic and said if Okada isn't showing up, he's going to stomp Ishii's face in. And then the coins dropped, and out comes Okada. He got a huge ovation. And and then he had this face-off with Danielson that just felt like a moment. And then Wheeler Yuta attacked Okada from behind. And as Danielson was going to hit the charging knee, Okada ducked. Danielson hit Yuta. Okada nearly hit a Rainmaker on Danielson, but he bailed out quickly. And this left Yuta to take a Rainmaker as Okada stood staring down Danielson on the ramp. This was very quick, but it was very cool. It was so cool to see Okada and Dynamite, and just that moment where the coins drop and you know he's coming. Him and Danielson facing off feels like a big deal. It definitely should be the main event of Forbidden Door. My only negative to any of this is it's definitely built for people who already know a lot about New Japan and who Okada is and why Okada facing Danielson is important. They don't really do much to ever explain stuff like that to you, but that kind of is how AEW is and how they're kind of built off the more hardcore wrestling fan. But I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait for Okada and Danielson's match. Just them staring down together. It was like, wow, this is something that we never thought was possible when Danielson was so tied to WWE and it looked like he was never going to leave. This is the kind of dream match that we'd all were hoping that would happen one day. So absolutely awesome. And that was AEW Dynamite going into Forbidden Door. We still have Collision coming on Saturday. And there's been lots of good stuff announced for that. Let me see if I can get the list of everything that's coming up. My God, coming up, Collision. Punk, FTR, Ricky Starks versus Jay White, Juice Robinson, and the Guns. Tanahashi versus Swerve Strickland. That's so cool. That is going to be really good. Christian Cage addresses the TNT title. We learn Sting and Darby Allin's partner for Forbidden Door. Brody King versus Andrade. That's going to be awesome. And Willa versus Nyla Rose in an Own Heart tournament match. And then for Forbidden Door, Zero Hour, Athena versus Billy Starks. Then Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr. versus KATSUYORI Shibata versus Daniel Garcia for the international title. Sting, Darby, and Mystery Man versus Jericho, Sammy, and Minoru Suzuki. Then we've got Moxley, Claudio, Wheeler, Takeshita, Shota versus Hangman, the Young Bucks, Eddie Kingston, Ishii. CM Punk versus Kojima. Tony Storm versus Willow Nightingale. Sonata versus Jungle Boy. MJF versus Tanahashi. And Kenny versus Will Ospreay. And Danielson versus Okada. There's so much going on, but I really can't wait for this weekend. I can't wait for Forbidden Door. Please check out my Forbidden Door preview with John WhatsApp over on Fightful. I'm doing that live in, I think, an hour or so's time. And also, please give this video a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Subscribe to this channel. Go check out my Patreon and everything else, where you'll find how you can watch stuff live. You'll find exclusive videos. And when I drop it, go check out my interview with LA Knight. And until next time, everyone, bye.